Assalamu alaikum. Today we have a very lengthy chapter. It's actually 25 pages, but I'm going to condense it because the subject, as we see it, is interesting and it is new for you. But the amount of grammar in it and the amount of details in it, it would take me over an hour. So we want to get through this book. I mean, we're 300 pages. We still have 700 to go. So I'm going to really try and condense it and give you the main points. The name of this chapter is ما جاء أن السبب كفر بني آدم وتركهم دينهم هو الغلو في الصالحين. And that means the reason for the kufr, the original kufr of Bani Adam, us humans, and they're leaving deenuhum. Leaving deenuhum means tarakahum deenuhum. It means their fitra, what they were originally blessed with, born with, was that Allah is one. It's inside you. And when did you start inventing all these other powers? That's what this chapter is about. And it's very lengthy and very detailed. So let's get right into it. Ghalu means exaggeration. Ghalu fi salihin, exaggerating the good people. Now we can jump right up to the present. Well, it's May 3rd, 2025. The Pope just died. The Catholic Church is electing a new Pope. And part of what they do, I'm always referring because we do have a lot of residual effects from the Catholic Church, whether you like it or not, but you don't notice, and I do. It's called the concepts of saints. Now, we have something called the awliya in Islam, those close to Allah by their piety, their good deeds, their obedience to Allah's commands. But the saints, I have to get through this quickly because it's painful to speak about. They're human beings that the Pope said were special. After they died, the Pope did exactly this. Ghalu fi salihin. They were good people, and they were well known to be brave and generous and giving and loving, and they were everything. They were men and women. But unfortunately, he made them something called saints through canonization. Canonization means the Pope in Rome, who is, as he calls himself, the power through him of God on earth. It's exactly like the Shia in Iran, Khomeini. You know, his name is Ayatollah Khomeini. Ayatollah, it means a sign of Allah. And so the 12 version, they call them the 12 or Shia, they totally believe this, 100%, which is why they get all that power, because people believe it too. So now, when I was a young girl, did people, they certainly did. Do you know, all through nun school, Catholic school, parochial school, however you want to term it, we go through something called relics. Now, when you use the word relic in modern day English language, we say, oh, that's just an old relic. It means something very old that don't be bothered with it. Don't believe in it. Well, it's used the exact opposite in the Catholic Church. Every month, we would be honored to get a relic sent to us straight from Rome, straight from the Pope. And the nun would make it a really big deal. And you didn't know which day the relics were coming in. And I remember how excited we were. And we were 6 rows. And in each row, I guess there were 8 students, about that, yeah. And the nun would stand at the top of the first row, and with all solemnity, she'd, make the sign of the cross and bow her head and tell us how special this was, and she'd pass it to the first student. And that student would say a little prayer, looking at the relic, and bow their head, and we were told, don't touch the relic, because the relic was usually encased in something, like a little box, a mini, because they were always tiny. They were a bit of a bone, or some strands of hair, or a bloody cloth. I'm serious. You're probably listening to this for the first time and thinking, what is this? This is the Catholic Church. And people believe it. Now, you see, that's why, let me just jump ahead. Oh, I know I'm going to digress, but it's so worth it. When I became a Muslim, my first teacher was a black man from Ghana. Why do I say black man? Oh, you're a racist. Why are you referring? Excuse me. This is Egypt, okay? Everyone in Egypt wants to be a lighter color than they are. Seriously. And the funny thing is that all the foreigners married the darker ones, myself included. I mean, it's just, we say in Arabic, el mamnu marghub. The thing that you lack, the thing that's kind of forbidden for you, is that thing that you desire. Mamnu'a, mana'a, means to be forbidden. Marghub, raghba, it means to be desired. Well, long story short, he wasn't just brown, he's black. I mean, like my scarf, the real dark. Now, that is not loved in Egypt. I'm telling you the truth. I'm here to tell you the truth, whether anyone likes it or not. I think I mentioned to you before when I'd show my wedding pictures to the Egyptian women, they'd say, "Ew, you're so beautiful. How could you marry someone samra?" Samra means black. It's really aswad, but they call it samra. I wanted to just smack them in the head, but I couldn't. Because they believe this. They all put on whitening cream to make their skin lighter. And first question asked when a husband's looking for a wife, baida, is she white? Is she? Meaning to them, lighter color. It's degrees. Why am I getting off on this tangent? Because it's very important. Your self-image, your self-worth, whether you like it or not, is really based on your traditions. For us, the Irish, we're all white. We're all white. There may be some black Irish. That means they have black hair. All white, 90% blue eyes, no big deal. You never think you're special because where I lived in the Northeast Boston area, everyone's white. No big deal. As we get older, we realize that there's beauty in every single race or tone or class. So whatever you depend on is what you prop up. And yes, it's a form of worship. Now that black man, his name was Sheikh Ismail, may Allah rest his soul and give him the highest level. We say Jannat al-Firdaus, the highest level in paradise. He deserves it. And he had a masjid. He graduated from Azhar, the Arabic language department, and he got a small masjid near, they place you in Egypt. You're deposited where they want you. Nobody is free to choose when it comes to the religion. So they put him at the top of the street where the Christian, it's called the Qibti church was, right near downtown, right near Tahrir Square, so that he could help with any translations because his English was perfect. Long story short, he was my wali, and I introduced my husband to him in his masjid while I waited upstairs, and they had a lengthy discussion over an hour to see if he was suitable. Now, with marriage in Islam, it's a discussion. It's a way of, without being embarrassed, you send someone to someone close to you and they kind of check him out. Like if he's totally a no-go, it will probably be a no-go because if it's your parents or your family, they'll say no. But if it's a normal wali, as they call it, it's an agreed upon nicety. It really is, because some things you're embarrassed of. And usually if it's an Islamic marriage, you don't know each other really. Not really. I knew my husband for about a week before we got married. Anyway, I'm digressing again. My husband liked him. The family liked him. We got married, and the first time he came to my home, my husband accepted that he could teach me because my husband knew that he couldn't for many reasons, not the least of which, not just the military thing. No, he wasn't a teacher, and he didn't have all the knowledge. So he was good enough and wise enough, and he trusted certainly me enough to know that I'm a very serious person, and I'm not the kind of person that's going to ever be intimidated or flustered that there's a man in my house. Not to mention the fact that I was 40 and he was like 28. Although, the cougars nowadays, never mind. Anyway, first time he came to my house, he was carrying a very thin, red leather-covered book. And he said, this is Kitab al-Tawheed. This is the grandson of the great Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who you can say revitalized Saudi Arabia from pagan practices to Tawheed. He's responsible for doing this because they had a lot of nasty behaviors. And he, with the, you can say, the power, because sheikhs don't usually get violent, but there was a king there, and his name was Saud, so that's where they get the name now. A lot of people accuse Beit Saud. They say, oh, you just get the power to call it Saudi Arabia because you latched on to Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. This is ridiculous. This is all from the will of Allah. Because as many people don't like him as do like him, but right now, of course, you're supposed to like him because he's like the standard bearer because of his name. Now, his name is Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, but they'll call them Wahhabis. Wahhabis has a negative connotation. It means terrorism. It's not a good meaning. Actually, they're lying because Al-Wahhab is one of Allah's beautiful names and it means the gift giver, the bestower of something great. People are ignorant. Anyway, that's why I tell you this book is very controversial, and many countries you cannot own this book. I want this to be taught in every school in America, not only Islamic schools, because Americans love this book. Because we have some knowledge of history. It's because we don't really have traditions. We're like a salad, so we're all mixed up and we're free to choose, which is the beauty. But most places are trapped in their ridiculous traditions. Yes, I'll say it right out loud. What do you mean the hanging gardens of Babylon? No, they were real and they were beautiful. What about the hanging garden in Japan, where you can go and hang yourself from a tree to commit suicide in a very dramatic, beautiful way? What? Who in America is going to say, hey, that's a cool idea? Well, maybe now with all the drugs. Who knows? But how about the people that drink deer's blood and they love to, Finland this is, and they cut the deer's stomach open and they just have a big blood party. I don't want to go on. I want to continue with this, but Americans are very open to information. They're open to new ideas. And then they can determine whether they find it disgusting or amazing and interesting. This is your book right here. Okay? So when he walked in with that small, it was 200 pages, red leather cover, and he placed it down and he said, I want to begin with this because this is very useful for your people. It has many chapters with many wonderful principles of faith. We call it dogma, doctrine. It's called aqidah. It comes from the word aqada, which means to tie tightly. To tie it so that it doesn't break apart. Now, the aqidah is something that you have to build it. Your fitra is there. Your fitra, your instinct that Allah is one, Allah put it in us. Before we were born, actually, we said the shahada. When we were not even like breathing. That's another story. I'll do a whole unit on what happens with that. I should do it right after this one. Actually, I should. I think I will. Anyway, I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. Not a clue. I couldn't read any Arabic. And he places his book down. He said, and this is a book I want you to always keep and always refer to because it's very important. And then he said, I want to start with a chapter that talks about how people left their fitra and became non-believers, because often the question will come up, was there ever a religion? And what made them not want it and go to other versions? That is a very big question that's often asked. We're going to learn right now how they did it. Ghulu, exaggeration, fi salihin. Over, you can say adoring, paying too much attention to good people, instead of just saying, Alhamdulillah, I knew them, they lived, they passed on. Inshallah, they'll be in paradise. No. As you might imagine already, we have the graves. We have the praying at the graves. We have the flowers at the graves. We have the building of mini castles on the graves, visiting graves. The whole grave thing. We call it grave worship. I hope when I finish with this, you're going to understand that it's futile and it's very wrong. In our version of Islam, we say, I shouldn't put it like this because people get upset. I don't care. It's called Salafi. It means what the original Muslims did when Prophet Muhammad told them what to do. The people who listened took it, every word of it, and the Sahaba wrote it down, and the Tabi'een followed the Sahaba, and this is what we call the serious version of Islam, Salafi. After that time, we got the Madahib, and we got the great scholars, and they were great, don't get me wrong. And the four Madahibs came into play, and you know them: Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, and I have to go in, my memory is going. I have to go in order. The first one was Maliki, and that's what's followed in the Maghrib, especially Morocco. Then after Maliki came Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i, Imam Maliki. I mean, they're all imams. They all had masjids. Then came Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, and they are called Hanbali. They're in Saudi Arabia, and they were forbidden in Egypt. It's only recently that you could even talk about them. Don't tell me I'm drawing a blank. Maliki, Shafi'i, Hanbali. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. That's what happens when I digress. It'll come to me. Anyway, the four madhab singular, madhab plural, were formulated, I will give you the English version to make it easier for you, around 900. I got it. Hanbali, Maliki, Hanafi, Shafi'i. And the reason this escapes me is because Imam Hanafi was the first one. Imam Ahmad is called the Hanafi. He was the first one to give the names to things. You see, before that, things were not codified, where you would say, okay, you could always say haram or halal, because that's in the Quran. But then he made up other terms. He made up mustahab, loved, makruh, hated, mubah, permitted. I mean, I could go on, but he did the terminology, and he was the first one to do the terminology. So you have to give him the credit for being a codifier. Not everyone liked that idea. Why? Because men, they want their own version. I keep telling you about this male ego thing, and it's real. They always want to be the boss. Now, am I going to talk about the Arba A'imah, the four great imams, that they are like that? Well, they had good intentions, of course. They just thought that this way was better. But Sheikh Ismail told me that all of them, and I've since been able to ascertain, be certainty that he was right when he told me this. They all agreed 90% on the major principles. They all respected and loved one another. So if someone tries to tell you that you're not allowed to follow a madhab, that's not correct. But if they tell you that you have to follow a madhab, that's also not correct. When I say I'm Salafi and I just like Qala Allah wa Qala Rasul, I just like the words of Prophet Muhammad and the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. Does that mean I don't like the Arba Madahib? No. As a matter of fact, I prefer Imam Shafi'i. If you have to go into details that you can't find in the Salafiyah, that's enough of the history. No, it's never enough of the history. The history is just beautiful. Islamic history, people think I got my degrees in Islamic history. No, it wasn't Islamic history. It was kind of political history, military history, all of the disasters that the Arabs underwent with occupation and with bad leaders. Does this all come from not following Quran and Sunnah? Well, yes, but Allah already said most people aren't going to follow it. That's why you shouldn't get all worked up about anything. Allah has decreed before you were born what's going to happen. Now, if that might be too far-fetched for you, let's cut to the chase and make it easier, okay? Allah says in the Quran, most people hate the truth, they don't believe, and they are ungrateful. And it's mentioned thusly many times in the Quran. So what do we do with that? We do what Allah tells us to do. We have patience. Patience is half of our Islam. And we deal with mercy. Allah says those who really believe, يَمْشُونَ عَلَى الْأَرْضِ هَوْنًا, they walk gently on the earth. They don't go around screaming in demonstrations. I'm sorry, this is religion. This is Islam. So it's come to the point now where if you don't march in a demonstration, you don't love Palestine? Of course I love Palestine. And I write Free Palestine on every one of my posts or every one of my whatever. Of course I love Palestine. Of course I want them to take their land back and live there safely. But because I won't march with a, few thousand people, few 100,000 people, does that mean I don't love Palestine? It means that I believe when Allah says something to me, that I should walk on the earth in dignity, quietly. Let's get into now. It's not just because I'm a woman either. I'm supposed to have a soft voice. I'm not supposed to be loud. Well, neither are the men. Prophet Muhammad was one of the softest, gentlest. That's why Sheikh Ismail was so awesome, because he never raised his voice. So he started with this chapter, and of course, when he said it was Noah, and what happened to Noah, I said, I already know about all that. Noah had his ark, and he called, the way they told us in Christianity, 2 by 2, come on, the donkeys, the cows, and ending with the people that would come on the ark. And then the flood came, and then they thought they were going to die, and even Noah's own son wouldn't come. He said, no, I'm going to go up to the highest place, the top of the mountain, and I am going to be safe, and the flood won't get me. Well, you should listen to your dad when he's talking to Allah, right? He died. Anyway, I'll just give you a few little definitions, and then we're going to have to make this into a part 2. It says here, what is the sabab al-kufr, Bani Adam? What is it? Sabab in the language, lugha, it means ma yatawassal bi ila ghayri, something that connects to something else. وَمِنُّ قَوْلُهُ, and this is Quran, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَلْيَمْدُدْ بِسَبَبٍ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ ثُمَّ لْيَقْطَعْ. And this is in Surah Al-Hajj. It means something can reach the sky. Allah is saying that to you. And then it gets cut. He starts with this. It's a little bit not the way I would have started, but he's free and he knows more than I do. وَمِنْهُ أَيْضًا, also, سُمِّيَ الْحَبْلَ سَبَبًا. So he's giving you what we could call, in English, a simile, a metaphor, that the habl, the rope, is the sabab. So there's the sabab and the musabab. So the sabab is the reason. The musabab is who causes that to happen. لِأَنَّهُ يَتَوَسَّلْ بِهِ استسقاء الماء من البئر. So you see how rich Arabic is. Now you're imagining that you're using this habl, this rope, to gain the water from the bi'r, from the well. So you tie it onto the bucket and you drop the bucket down, and that's the sabab. وَأَمَا فِي الْإِسْتِلَاحِ, and how do we use this in the hadith sciences? In the Ahl al-Usul, those who deal with the fundamentals, فَهُوَ الَّذِي يَلْزِمْ مِنْ وُجُودٍ الْوُجُودِ وَمِنْ أَدَمُ الْأَدَمِ. This means that if something is wujud, it's wujud. And when something is adam, it's adam. If it's present, you can see that it's present. And if it's not, it's absent. He thinks this is clarification. Well, in Arabic, I suppose you could say it is, because it's Arabic. Ay, meaning, إذا وجد السبب وجد المسبب. So if you have a reason for something to happen, وجد السبب, that it necessitates there is a musabab, something that brought the sabab forth. And this is very important because a lot of people who don't understand this, they just say, I don't have to worry about it. Allah's just going to do it. He's just going to do it. Well, of course he's just going to do it. He does everything. But you have to make some paces in all of this. You have to join in order to achieve, of course, with Allah's permission and help. That goes without saying. وَإِذَا أُدِمَ السَّبَبُ أُدِمَ الْمُسَبَّبُ. So if there's not a reason, you don't need somebody to get a reason or to make a reason. إِلَّا أَنْ يَكُونُ هُنَاكَ السَّبَبَ آخر يُثْبِتُ بِهِ الْمُسَبَّبُ. Unless there's another way or person or format that you could achieve this. Call the Bani Adam. When you say Bani Adam, يشمل الرجال والنساء. It means male and female. لأنه إذا قيل بنو فلان, if you say the offspring of so-and-so, وهم قبيلة, and it's a tribe, شمل ذكورهم وإناثهم. It mixes the male and female. أما إذا قيل بنو فلان, you're not talking about a tribe, you're talking about an individual, أي رجل معين, a certain individual, فالمراد بهم الذكور. Now, I don't know why. I even have a question mark saying why here. Why ought it be assumed that it would be a male? I can't get into Arab tribalism because you'll never get it, and we don't do it, but the essence is the first creation was a man. And so now I have to add this because I know you're wondering, oh, why is Allah referred to as Huwa? If he has no gender, why is that? It's so confusing in Quran. And all the scholars try to give their reasons and they all try to... I just say, is it any of your business really? If Allah wants the Huwa to refer to who, could it possibly be your pea brain needs a word in order to refer to something? And Allah just referred you back to the original creation, which was a man. Isn't that easy? I think it's very easy and makes perfect sense. Okay, then he talks about tarakahum, meaning to leave them. Tarakahum, and when they left their instinctual religion, which is dinihim, what happened? Now, here we get into grammar. No, I'm not going to do that. And then lastly, al-ghalu. هو مجاوز الحد. غلو means excessive, going over the limits. Either in ثنا قدحا أو قدحا. Wait. Oh, مدحا أو قدحا. These are my reading glasses. These are supposed to be the best. I think we should stop now, and I'm going to just do Quran. I'm going to go right into part 2 and give you only Quran because I gave you the definitions, gave you the basics, but I said there's 25 pages. So We have 700 more pages to go in this book. Yeah. Okay, I just leave you with a Quranic ayah, okay? Okay, the first quote he gives you is the exact same quote as he's given you in the title. So I won't do that. I'll go to the next Quranic quote. And this is from, this is from Sahih. It's a hadith from Ibn Abbas. Here we are. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وقالوا لا تذرن آلهتكم ولا تذرن ودا ولا سواعا ولا يغوث ويعوق ونسرا. Here are the people saying to each other, of course you need other idols. And then he gives a list of who these idols are and the names of all these idols. And the people are saying, don't leave these idols, you need them. So I'm just going to leave you with that one. And then when we come back, we'll go on with just Quran and Hadith. And I hope I can make the next one a half hour too, because this one's a half hour. And all I can say is, if you really want to, you can get the translation PDF free, downloaded. But of course it's going to be in English, so it's not going to have the same impact. But if you're really, really curious about this subject, because the thing is, they were warned. And the trouble started in the time of Noah. And Allah was angry enough to send a flood, wasn't he? So you can imagine how this subject needs a lot of attention. Not giving humans all of this attention and worship, adoration, to the point where we even have a TV show in America called American Idol. What could be more appropriate for one of the reasons of the downfall of our civilization, to name a show American Idol? See you in part 2. Assalamu alaikum.